without further ado, roll the intro, please, Quimby. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are back with it's a bit of a delay, but we're watching Xbox Division 1 FRS Season 6, Round 3 here in Coda. Alright, can't see the USA because, as mentioned earlier, we are going to be visiting the USA twice. Okay, so we are in Austin at this lovely, wonderful Herman Tilke track with 2 DRS zones coming after turn 11 and before turn 1. Now, some interesting tidbits. As always, winners in Austin have gone on to win the FRS Championship only 4 times out of the past 14 visits that we've made it here. And even with the long back straight, drivers will just spend 62% of the time at full throttle in dry conditions. Now, where are the turn 1 action zones? I am so glad that you asked me. We're going to be looking at turn 1. Well, I said turn 1 action zones, but one of the turn action zones is going to be turn 1. Heading after that not long, but the DRS straight on the start finish there, uphill, blind left-hander, and of course we're going to have turn 12, another heavy braking zone that we can see some moves being set up into, and especially with so much track width, we can see a lot of different racing lines being taken there to get that move done. Now, the tires, what are we going to be seeing? Hard, mediums, and the softs, and some dry running as always. I suspect if most people are going to be aiming for the one-stop strategy, we're going to be looking at the mediums and the hards. Hards lasting about 21, 22 laps. Mediums lasting about 16 laps. Soft lasting 8 laps, but pace-wise really only good for about a lap and a half. Even less if you're on some high fuel running. Now let's take a look at the Drivers' Championship. LC Fighter, my man, at the very top with 40 points. Queasy Pluto right behind him. And Cryptic F1 in the Haas. Now, without further ado, I say we go ahead and take it trackside and look at some qualifying action. Now, where's that button? I think it's this one here. Oh, look at that. I nailed it. Now, again, this is just a replay that I'm going to be commentating over, so I really don't remember the buttons that I was pressing, and hopefully I give myself the necessary data that I need. But I'm going to be doing this by myself, unfortunately, as I hope that Kim is asleep currently. As it's about like 4 in the morning over there right now, 2 in the morning, something like that. But we got cars out on track. We're not worried. Well, we are worried about Kim getting a good night's sleep, but we're gonna manage just fine in the commentary booth without him. Not as well as we would do if he was here, but we're riding on board with Henius Lime, who is the driver that is currently out first on the track, leading these guys around. But let's talk about Austin. It's a lovely, wonderful track. Herman Tilke track, I believe it had its first race ran here in 2016, 2015? In the hybrid era. I know that much at least, but yeah, it's an absolutely lovely track that I love to hot lap around. Whether or not it makes good racing, I mean, with the previous generation cars, not necessarily. We saw a lot of DRS trains forming, but hopefully with these new cars and the new design philosophy that they have, making it easier to follow and everything like that, I hope it's a little bit better. But I do have to give a huge shout out to Sector 3. Sector 3 is such a spectacular piece of track. If I'm being honest, I love it. This small elevation changes, I really think, is what makes it. And not that necessarily the corners themselves, the string of corners are hard, and they're honestly not that flowy, but it's just the weird on-camber, off-camber bits that you get. And of course, a big shout out to the piece of track that we're on right now. That triple, quadruple, depending on who you ask, right-hander there right before the final 2 corners. I mean, it's just lovely. And not to mention, we not only have NASCAR running here, IndyCar, and Formula 1. I mean, what more is there to love? As we're riding on board with Henius Lime, who's going to be the first to cross the line to start a flying lap with MJ Povey right behind them. Henius Lime in the Alfa Romeo. If I'm not mistaken, this is their first time joining us again from their hiatus in Season 5, racing in Division 2, back in Season 4. The Alfa Romeo driver coming up through this tricky S's here, doing a nice job keeping the car planted. Oh, it looks like I jinxed him. Again, I did a great job at forgetting this race and what exactly happened. So hopefully past me we'll be able to cut to somebody else who might be on a little bit better of a flying lap as we cut back and forth, picking different camera angles. MJ Povey, as I mentioned earlier, was the next one behind Henius Line to be setting a flying lap. He might even be able to get a nice little tow from Henius Line, depending on how close he was to the back of him. As what am I doing here? Oh, I am inviting Alfredo Man. So yes, that's what happening right here. So I can do a nice job at being able to catch a little breath of fresh air. As this part I do remember, but MJ Povey, you can see that line there through, I don't know what turn that is, but we might potentially see some overtakes being set up there, as it's, again, there's so many, the width of this track is just so nice that you're able to set up different lines to be able to potentially produce overtakes or defend against people you're driving behind. As we're back on board with MJ Povey now, and we see this traffic that we have looks like an absolute nightmare. I mean, honestly, it reminds me of when In-N-Out back in '95 opened up back in Santa Monica, California, and it was just a nightmare there on the I-5 as I completely pulled that out of my no square. MJ Povey, first across the line, sets a time of 1:33.6. Now, I gotta say, while that is impressive, having watched there you go, QX Nemesis, our Season 5 champion, coming across and beating that time by almost 0.3 of a second as we cut to Voki now. Our beloved Canadian brother, one of the beloved Canadian brothers that looks like he's going to go ahead and back out of this lap. But yeah, I was going to say, I had to give a shout out to Mako, who I was going to say, MJ Povey's time, not that impressive given that Mako's banker lap, if I'm not mistaken, was a 1:33.2, if I remember correctly, as we cut on board with another man who is known for his absolute pace. And dare I say, possibly the next Fast 6 driver, Queasy Pluto, with some fantastic one-lap pace as we're riding on board with him. Currently sitting P13, but, I mean, just people haven't really set lap times in that Mercedes car. And actually, as I speak about it, Mercedes currently P2 in the Constructors' Championship. Queasy Pluto and Quimulus doing a fantastic job to be able to do a decent amount of work with, now that I see it, Queasy Pluto, I love the lid of your driver. That looks absolutely spectacular. It's coming up, finishes across that penultimate corner, coming up to the final corner now, doing a nice job chucking it in there. Not running too wide, but a decent banker lap. 1:34.3. I gotta say, a decent banker lap, a competitive banker lap here would be a 30 in the 33s, as we see these Red Bull boys doing a little bit of toe action here. Lawrence Boris, how much is that gonna help him out come the when he crosses the start-finish line? But I love to see it. You can get, I'd imagine, a decent amount, probably even more than you would with the Kimmel Straight in Spa, giving your teammate a tow there, especially it being a much easier straight to try and set up to give your teammate the tow, as Lawrence is coming through that quadruple, triple, whatever you want to call it, right-hander there, up to this penultimate corner now, doing a nice job keeping it in balance, that car. It's easy to drop it there out of that penultimate corner, setting himself up nicely, getting a great run on that final exit. Where is that going to place him? Provisionally P3 on the second row. Congratulations to that Red Bull driver, Lawrence Boers. Happy to see you back, man. Extremely happy to see him back. And with his fellow Dutchie, Pepmeister, in the other Red Bull that we saw him giving a tow. And look at that, Pepmeister with a 35.1 with, I imagine, a higher fuel load, trying to give his teammate a tow on what is essentially Pep's in lap, more or less. So, yeah, nice job, Pepmeister there with Quimulus ahead of him. I gotta be honest, as we're riding on board with Simply Mango on their Xbox Division 1 debut. Well, it looks like you got the ERS lights flashing on the back of the car. But regathering my train of thought there, I was going to say, you know, what is going to be the Constructors' Championship battle, as we see a Haas spun round there in the background of Cryptic, I believe that is, as he's just on an out lap. But I got to say, it's going to be a close one in the Drivers' Championship between Mercedes and Red Bull, and I am here for it. I'm absolutely here for it. We have Queasy Pluto, who has found a new pace coming out of the FRS Cup. Quimulus, longtime veteran. We have Pepmeister and Lawrence, who are just also fantastic, incredibly quick drivers as we cut to check Chuck SRQ. We're right on board with a lap with the American Venezuelan. I'm not sure how what he prefers to be referred by, but the American. We'll stick with the American and the papaya orange here as we keep a little bit of attention, I guess, picking up a little bit of understeer there through the S's. And I'm not saying that's bad driving. That's just the setup. That's the nature of this track, and then the setup that it requires. You're going to be picking up understeer, and just it's going to be exacerbated even more so once you slap on those medium and hard tires, and especially with the high fuel load. That's going to be something that we're going to have to be keeping an eye out on once we get going and underway. So you see a little snap of oversteer that he does a nice job catching, but it looks like that's going to be his lap aborted as he lets the Haas driver through. So we're going to cut to LC Fighter. Last time out, winner of Spa, Francorchamps. As I absolutely butcher that, as we're going to ride on board with him. Hasn't set a time yet, but doing a nice job. I mean, again, you can see there the amount of understeer that the Ferrari driver is picking up, our current championship leader. The amount of understeer that he's picking up through those S's, it's something that can't be avoided unless you just come with a very snappy and aggressive setup, which I doubt a lot of these drivers will be having, or wanting and desiring, I should be saying. And who knows, potentially too. I mean, these guys might be expecting some kind of wet weather in the race as well, so we might be seeing some kind of heavy downforce setups that don't really allow them to carry that much speed through this, where you want to trim off as much aero as possible to be able to get the optimal line. And so that might be something that's coming into play here as we're continuing to ride on board with this guy who set the purple sector too, a 103.1. Not too bad from our championship leader there. I remember commentating on PlayStation. I think he was saying that 102 was a bang-on lap. So let's see what he does here in Sector 3. But I got to say, that Ferrari is looking like it's on rails here through this final sector now. As we're coming up to the final corner. Oh, you haven't seen that yet. He could have taken a bit more apex. Could have pushed the car out a bit wider. But with the... puts in a 133.7. We saw a little bit of time left out there on the track as we cut to Cryptic, who is another guy who has had an exceptional showing, especially out there in Spain, winning the first race. But we saw his ERS lights flashing, so I'm assuming that's why we cut away now to Queasy Pluto, who we don't think has set a representative lap time, as we cut back to Quimulus, Queasy Pluto's teammate here in the other Mercedes. And we got to say, Quimulus seeing him back on the podium! Back on the podium, Belgium. Absolutely ecstatic for the man, and I gotta say, this is a home race for him. So what is he gonna be able to do as he carries a little bit of a lock up there? It has to be noted as well for Quimulus, he is one of the few drivers that runs minimal assist, no racing line, no ABS, no traction control. So that lock up that I imagine we're probably gonna see here, yes, there we go into turn 12. That's not uncommon to see, especially with the physics of this game that we have. He's still keeping it extremely tight. You can hear the tires squeal there, but it's not upsetting the car in any way. Maybe picking up a little bit of late understeer as we're seeing them missing the apex of that corner there as we come up to this Turkey-inspired turn 8 of Turkey-inspired corner in Coda. However you want to call it. We're coming up to penultimate corner. Car a little bit more understeer than we've seen through some other cars, but again, it might be that we're expecting some wet weather in the race. I'm not 100% sure, although I am just, acting like a little bit different as Quimulus is going to cross the line. Going provisionally to P10. Not bad, or I honestly might have missed that. I don't know if that was a previously set time as... Wow, Queasy Pluto running extremely wide there. Oh, he must be setting himself up for another lap, though. Looking at his steering wheel there. Doesn't look like he has enough fuel for another hot lap, so... I imagine we're going to cut away, yes, now to Issei, who's going to be diving into the pits after he invalidated his lap time. So we're just going to be scrolling, trying to find somebody else's nemesis. Comes across the line. Knocks off even a little bit more time to put himself even that further ahead on that pole position there. But what can MJ Povey do? These two duking it out back in Season 5. The Williams driver and the formerly artist known as Aston Martin driver, QX Nemesis, I guess. But Povey, penultimate corner, setting himself up nice and wide, throwing it in there. Oh, from that angle, it looked like he missed a little bit of apex and still running a little bit too wide. He does improve significantly given the margins that those guys are running on at the front there, but it's not enough to take that provisional pole. But Pep Meister, who gave his friend a tow, Lawrence, where is Pep going to be able to chuck this Red Bull? Jumps up into P10, nips that P10 from Quimulus. But again, I got to wait till that yellow flag indicator goes away. 5 minutes left in this session as Pep is letting his driver, or excuse me, his teammate go on by as we cut to Spin, who is in P7. I'm not saying that okay, I am surprised by that, but I'm like a respectable surprise by Spin. He slipped under our radar there at one point, jumping up there, crawling into P7 there. So a huge shout out to Spin Wolf, driving for McLaren last time around and is a reserve driver this season. But we're going to try and find somebody else who's on a flying lap. Our Division 2 champion from Season 5, Lima Bean in the Alpha Tauri. Let's see how he is going to be able to handle this final sector here, doing a nice job. Oh, I love that apex that he took there early on. Sets himself up nice to be able to keep a nice and tight line. Throws it out wide, chucks it in. Oh, this is looking good. And I see the ERS lights flashing. It looked like it was going to be a bang-on lap, but I guess that's what I get for not commentating and really trying to pay attention to what people are doing with their cars. So we'll go ahead and cut on over to Heinous Lime, who was the first one out to attempt to set a flying lap and cross the line to go ahead and trigger the timing lights, as he ended up invalidating it earlier on. But let's go ahead and cut back to him, as it looks like he's crossed his Sector 2 split. 2/10 up. Nice job from him. That will put him potentially ahead of that one kid, the rookie in the McLaren seat. As we go ahead and ride on board with Heinous Lime. He's not taking as much apex as we saw Lima Bean do in the Alpha Tauri earlier, but oh no, as he just invalidates there through that final corner. Or the penultimate corner, excuse me, as we go ahead and ride on board with the person who has yet to set a valid lap time, Voki, as he comes up to the final corner. This guy has some pace in him. If he has a little bit more practice, too, I bet he could be looking at some podiums. Not running as wide as I would have liked to have seen from somebody of his caliber, but he still is able to do a nice job with a 35.3 as we run over to Cryptic, the round 1 winner. It looks like he has invalidated his lap times. We'll go ahead and, I guess, ride on board with Chuck SRQ. Why not in the Papaya Orange? Is it still the Papaya Orange? It seems like it's not as deep, not as full. It looks like it's a bit lighter this time around, but I could be wrong. What do I know about that stuff? But I'll use this, not necessarily lack of action, but people going on their outlaps as an excuse to go ahead and mute myself and take a take a little drink to wet my throat some. So I'll be right back. So, apologies. I can't remember if Simply Mango was on a flying lap at this point. I saw the ERS lights flashing. Not that I was trying to cut away while we were on board with them, but I saw the flashing rear tail lights indicating that they were recharging their batteries rather than deploying them at maximum grit. So, that's not why I cut it away. Or that is why I cut away. Not because I don't think that they have the reason to be shown live, but yeah, I just think I needed some kind of drink. I understand now why Quimby has so many different cans of soda and water available to him while he commentates on PC4. A big shout out to Quimbulus for doing a spectacular job with the broadcast, as we're going to go ahead and I imagine right on board with LC Fighter, our current championship leader. 40 points, I believe. A decent chunk ahead of Cryptic, who is currently sitting P2. So let's ride on board with LC Fighter. I just absolutely love the guy. Regardless of what he does in race trim and off track, which is honestly what a big part of FRS is. He's just amazing. He's incredible. And I genuinely do love the guy. He's a guy with a fantastic heart. But we'll go ahead and continue to ride on board with him, as he's going to be approaching, not really approaching the Sector 2 split. We got the straight to go through, but it's looking like a very, very decent lap. And I remember from him in the PlayStation commentary, we're going to be looking and seeing if he gets into that critical 1 minute 2 sector time that indicates a very good lap so far. So he's coming up to it now. He's going to be able to get to what he indeed is. Oh my goodness. 4/10 up, the Ferrari driver, LC Fighter, looking absolutely incredible right now. But Sector 3 is a very tricky one, especially for those guys running on controller, aka pad, which I know he is running on. And yeah, those switchbacks and all that stuff, it's very difficult to nail, I'd imagine, on the controller. Actually, I spun a couple of laps in PlayStation in prep for commentary. And yeah, it was something else as we see him getting absolutely wide there. There it is! 133.1 from the Ferrari driver, LC Fighter, taking provisional pole as we cut to his teammate. Don't know why we cut away from him. Because why not? Because it's a Petmeister. The Red Bull family, loving to see it. What's Itze gonna be able to do here as he's gonna come across the line? Unable to improve, 7 seconds down. We look at Quimbliss. He's diving into the pits. Looks like he invalidated his lap time. So we'll cut back to the Xbox Division 2 reigning champion from Season 5, Lima Bean. Oh, this is looking so stable coming across the penultimate corner. Yes, can you guys tell that I had learned what penultimate means, and I sound absolutely sophisticated. Lima Bean going to be crossing the line now, able to jump a position ahead. Gets that critical 800s, but Nemesis 3/10 up according to the split as we cut to him. His ERS isn't deployed, but he jumps up, just barely taking it by just under a 10th now as we go to Lawrence boards. What is he going to be able to do? Is he going to be able to put the car any further ahead? He is able to improve, but it's not enough to be able to get as we look at MJ Povey invalidating his lap time. So that's going to be it for him. He's not going to be able to improve. Petmeister, the next potential guy who could upset this provisional pole. Is he going to have enough in the tank as he crosses the line? It certainly isn't enough. We'll take that provisional pole, but he does jump ahead. A good couple of Queasy Poo comes across the line right behind Petmeister to put himself up there provisionally into P4 as we run on board with the other Canadian Hobbs fan, Nick. Moving over to Alfa Romeo this season. What is he going to be able to do as he comes across the line? It looks good. He does improve, but it's not enough to be able to jump up ahead of Lawrence Boers or gain himself, any kind of track position. So we'll go ahead, and that is going to be it. Are we going to cut to Chuck, my guy? Old me. It looks like he's invalidated his lap. Okay, so there it is. The Ferrari guys locking out the front row. And again, we see the Red Bull drivers very close to each other again. That's why I pointed out these guys, Red Bull and Mercedes, going to be very tight this season. Not because I kind of know what happens later on in the race for Ferrari, but I mean, you know, it is what it is. Trust me, you get what you give. You got to come over to my city and see how we live. Anyways, please don't copyright strike me for that. Drake, if you do, I won't be able to put that onto our YouTube channel. I guess I can mute it, but, you know, I just wordplay, all that kind of stuff as we that's it. That's qualifying. That's what that is qualifying. MJ Povey qualifying third. QX Nemesis qualifying, taking that pole position, doing a nice job representing his teammate, Petmeister. Or not, excuse me, not Petmeister. My goodness gracious. Fast 6 driver from his teammate back in, was Nemesis and Fast 6 driver teammates back in the Season 1, was it? I really can't remember, but there it is. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a race ahead of us. And I gotta say, oh, thank you, past me, for cutting to that bit there. I do, if I recall correctly, we do have a full formation lap, so I got plenty of time to kill. So, talking about strategies. Medium and hards are going to be the primary tires that we're going to be seeing these drivers taking. I guess we'll say that I watched PC Reserve, potentially, and that's why I know this strategy, not because I watched this race and recorded it, or did, you know, PlayStation and all that kind of stuff. But mediums and hards are going to be the optimal tires for this if we want to do a one-stop. The pit lane isn't necessarily long, but when your tires are cold and you're coming up to those S's, it's just not an ideal situation. So I'd expect us to be avoiding that one stop. And again, those soft tires really just do not last that long in race conditions, especially going, I mean, from the runnings that I saw in the different races that I witnessed, they were only good for about a lap and a half, maybe 2 laps. Honestly, it was a lap and a half in low fuel mode, so not even 2 laps. We saw the graphic. They can last 6 or 8 laps, excuse me, but that's just, oh, that takes some absolute skill to be able to make that happen. And I'd imagine we're probably not going to be seeing the soft tires come out that often. I really wish Kim was here with me, being able to help co-commentate with me, but that's besides the point. I will power through. Quimbulus has done it multiple times in PC Division 4, so what else do we have to talk about? We have to talk about, a big one. Turn 1. It can absolutely be a nightmare, especially given what we've seen in previous races heading into in Belgium in Turn 1 there. When you have just this, as they go ahead and we cut to the formation lap, but I still have the time to talk about it. We have this uphill blind left-hander where these guys are going to be using that gravitational assist of going uphill to be able to help the slow the car down. We might see some drivers sending it a bit more aggressively than they should be into Turn 1 as we go ahead and look at the, wow, thank you, past me. Looking at the tires there. All right, so what do we got? We have a couple guys on the hard tires here. We got Queasy Pluto, Simply Mango disqualifying from the session there. I don't know what happened. I assume some kind of contact occurred. But we got Queasy Pluto, Hobbs fan Nick, who we know loves the alternate strategy, and it has worked for him a couple of times in the past. We have Spin Wolf on the hards. That one kid in the McLaren making his rookie debut as Nemesis is warming his tires up in an unconventional manner, I guess. And then we got Voki. Those are going to be your hard tire runners. As predicted, I am an absolute genius and calling it medium in the hard tires starting out to begin with. Now, I will say I genuinely do not remember what it was, what the tire temp situation was like for these guys, as it looks like our boy Alfredo RA has left this session. I imagine some disconnect issues going on there, but yeah, what am I doing here with this camera work? Wow, that is some exceptional stuff as we're riding on board with Cryptic F1. Our round 1 winner, as he is quickly approaching the back of that Mercedes ahead of him with Queasy Pluto. But yeah, just take a look at all these guys driving by. Oh, that's what I was doing with this camera work. Look at that. I managed to get all these cars. Oh, spectacular. Props to me. But there you go. You see it. Predicted pit stop strategy, medium tires. Again, it's AWS, Amazon's web services, blah, blah, blah. It's not that good at predicting it. So I believe, if I recall correctly, the medium tires are going to be able to go to about lap 12 pace. Well, I guess that does mean that graphic was accurate. But yeah, the medium tires will be able to go about lap 12 on pace before we see them start to cliff a little bit and go down. It's a little bit of overcast there, but I imagine it's probably not enough to have some kind of porridge ruin this party as Nemesis is darting ahead. But getting back to my train of thought, as I tend to hop off of and dart onto some other train that looks more appealing, I guess. The medium tires going about lap 12 pace-wise, and then after that they'll start to slowly degrade, but the hard tires are absolutely fantastic at maintaining their grip levels to about, as we see Cryptic there doing a nice spinala for us, as we absolutely love to see somebody dropping it, warming up their tires with this immersive formation lap. So thank you very much, Cryptic, for that. Normally it's Nemesis dropping it, warming up to the grid, but I guess it had to be Cryptic this time. So we're riding on board with the McLaren of Chuck, maybe? Yes, it was Chuck, as we see him go past the pit box. But that's enough from me. We'll go ahead and cut back to a different me now, as I'm riding on board with these terrible camera angles. There's 5 red lights. Not a good camera angle in sight. This was a little bit better, as I am doing a terrible job managing that camera angle. Okay, so LC Fighter gets a good pull away. Nobody's ahead of him, so that means he overtook Nemesis. As we track the cars behind him. That one kid looks like he lost out a couple positions. Thankfully, it doesn't look like there's nobody who got too much terrible damage, as we see end plates still attached to those front wings. What I can tell, all those cars, we saw somebody going a bit wide there. I imagine that's Simply Mango there. As we do see a yellow pop up. Who is that? It looks like it's Voki and the Aston Martin who has spun around. It looks like Harsh Masochist is continuing the debutante this time around, as I go ahead and get rid of those distracting tire compounds. We know who has them and what's to come, as we ride on board with QX Nemesis, who continues to drop down the order, as we see Queasy Pluto on the hard compound tires, if I'm not mistaken, being able to get out ahead of that Ferrari driver. But Nemesis closing. Is he going to be able to get that move done even before they approach the corner? No. That is Queasy Pluto going to be ahead going into that corner, but you can just see that absolute grip of those medium tires being able to get that move potentially stuck, and that position regained from Queasy Pluto, even though this man is not giving up a fight in that Mercedes car there. Fantastic job by QX Nemesis to get his P2 position back, but also to Queasy Pluto for being able to compete with the hard tires there. As we're riding on board with Quimbulus, who has managed to stay in P11, which is honestly a pretty spectacular feat, as we see a little bit of a lockup there from the front right from that Mercedes drivers. But I was going to say, it was a pretty spectacular feat, as we can see. I keep losing my train of thought because I see the Ferrari drivers pulling way ahead there. 2 seconds pulled out to P3 there of Queasy Pluto, way outside of any kind of threat, or at least LC Fighter is any kind of threat from DRS potential overtakes. But to go back to Quimbulus, for a man who's running minimal assist, I mean, what an absolute bang-on job to be doing with these guys who are just so competitive in this Xbox Division 1. As I go ahead and move that detail so we can focus on this racing as we ride on board with Lima Bean until we cut away to MJ Povey, who has lost many positions now, looking to climb back up the pole. As you can see him getting caught out a little bit by Cryptic's early braking, potentially. Maybe Povey sitting a little bit later, potentially looking to make an overtake, but I just really don't think it was on there. I think he was just a little bit surprised as this terrible camera work. Man, I apologize to whoever watched this live, but we're going to Simply Ninja, or excuse me, Simply Mango, not Simply Ninja and Diamond Mango. NFC Vickers, Simply Mango going at it. Looks like Simply Mango is going to be able to hang on this time around under threat to the Alpine driver behind. Stanier, our full-time Williams driver, unable to make it this time around. As we can see, NFC Vickers running just so much wider. And that just makes you wonder, as it looks like, oh no, Cryptic F1, what happened to him? As he dangerously kind of cuts across there in front of Quimbulus, even though he was ghosted for a little bit. That was a bit scary, as you can see. Quimbulus, oh no, that was just the lag of the game. Desync, I guess we could say, as there's a Sector 3 incident with multiple cars back there. What was going on back there, fellas? What are we doing? As these guys are getting back up to racing speed, hang up now in turn 1 with DRS enabled, but since the detection zone is before the end of this lap, they're not going to be having it for the start-finish straight. They're going to have to wait until they get into that long back straight there, as NFC Vickers is continuing to go at it with Simply Mango. Or no, excuse me, Simply Mango is going at it with Chuck XRQ, and you can see him pushing the limits as, he makes a little bit of contact there with NFC Vickers. Oh man, poor NFC Vickers. I mean, he surely was not expecting that, as Simply Mango just had the compromise. What is Quimbulus doing? No! One of the OGs of FRS, and honestly, I mean, I'm a bit biased to Quimbulus, as he was my Season 1 teammate, and Season 2, actually. I absolutely love the support that he gave me when we were both figuring out this league and what it was, as we're going to go ahead and cut back to his teammate, Queasy Pluto, who's going at it wheel to wheel with Lawrence Boers, as they're just, again, I spoke about it earlier in qualifying, and man, there's just so many different lines that you can take there through that final sector, especially where you could potentially get an overtake, potentially defend against, and we are seeing both of you guys maximize that track width, as we can see MJ Povey catching up to that gearbox of the Red Bull as well, looking to join that fight. Hello, MJ Povey. What is going to happen this time around, as these guys are going to be getting some DRS heading down this back straight there? You can see Lawrence darting out behind Queasy Pluto, trying to get that toe. MJ Povey opting for the racing line, maybe having a little bit less wing, dare I say, than the guys ahead of him, or just opting to stay away from that fight, as Queasy Pluto, my man, sitting on that final step of the podium on the hard tires this early on. What a fantastic job he is doing with elbows out racing, but you can see that speed difference MJ Povey is able to get, catching up to the back of Lawrence Boers, but he just has to back out because there's just absolutely no opportunity to overtake there, as Queasy opts for the inside line, going defensive, and that was not a good move, apparently, as Lawrence is able to get that position, but Queasy does maintain that P4 position to MJ Povey behind, which I bet is probably something that he might have been looking out for, as he gets extremely close to the back of that Red Bull with his front wing there. That Mercedes driver's Queasy Pluto. Man, he has learned and improved a lot in the offseason. His wheel-to-wheel racing, his on-track experience. We see MJ Povey diving out wide. Are we going to get 3 wide here into, what is this, turn 12? Oh, we are going to get it as the desync kicks in, and I'm a little bit deflated because of that, but that's okay. They were ghosted. Nobody dies so far, and they're going wheel to wheel. MJ Povey getting 2 moves done in a couple of corners, not one, but that's still exciting nonetheless. 3 wide into turn 12. You'll love to see it. And somehow Lawrence manages to hang on there without any kind of DRS assistance to be able to slot into P4 right behind MJ Povey. Fantastic job from the Dutchie, if I'm not mistaken. Apologies, Lawrence, if I got that wrong. I'm pretty sure you're a Dutchie, but anyways, the Dutch driver of Lawrence Boards in the Red Bull. As we see a yellow flag popping up there, it looks like the Heaney Slime, Alfa Romeo there, excuse me. He got caught out there, making his, I'm pretty sure this is a debut return. I don't believe we saw him in Belgium or Spain earlier on this season, but we'll cut back to his teammate now, who has been battling with a different Red Bull, as we see Pep run wide, but not actually run wide because of desync and spectator mode and whatnot. And it looks like, if I'm not mistaken, Harsh Masochist is potentially, oh my goodness, what is this? Desync Code Masters. Please keep the PC bugs to PC. Leave us console peeps alone. Console Master Race. As we see a little bit of a lockup. I was going to say, Hobbs Fan Nick always gets an exceptional, excuse me, as he gets an exceptional run out of that corner there. Turn 11, if I'm not mistaken. Gets a very lovely run up to Pep Meister. But Pep is going to have some good defense. Oh, I was going to say he's going to have that DRS assistance to Queasy Pluto ahead as Hobbs Van Nick and Pep Meister are going wheel to wheel, and Hobbs Van Nick is able to get the move done there. But is it going to stick, or is Pep going to be able to fight back, as it looks like Pep turns his concerns to that Haas, that quick Haas of Cryptic F1 behind there, as you could just see Cryptic all over that gearbox of Red Bull. Oh, man, you love to see it. Oh, it's so good. Even though we don't have wet weather racing, we still have fantastic racing, because that's just what these guys deliver week in and week out, and I love to see it. Cryptic having a little bit of a look there up the inside, but he knows he just doesn't have that speed difference to be able to get that move done on Pep Meister heading into the final corner. So is he going to have a good enough run out of the final corner to be able to get a move done, possibly into turn 1? Late braking. Who is going to play chicken and brake earlier? Was it Pep Meister? Did Pep Meister do the right thing, being able to brake a little bit earlier to get a better run out of that final, or the first corner, excuse me, as no, it doesn't look like it. So Cryptic, for the time being, moves up into P7, but there's been so many position changes throughout the entirety of this race as we continue to ride on board with this Haas driver. Man, oh man, as I continue to commentate, I just got to say, I have no idea how Quimbulus does it, especially with PC4 having so many red flags and restarts and bugs and so much. Not even just that, but just, I wouldn't say spectacular racing, but shambles. Okay, shambles. They're good to watch, right, at times, and whatever. I don't know how that man does it. So, huge shout out to Quimbulus again. I said it time and time again. But it's Cryptic going to continue to crawl up the order as he gets a move done on that hard tire runner of Hobbs Van Nick into turn 12. It looks like that Haas driver is able to get that move done, and I'd imagine being able to get it to stick. These medium tires still good for about 6 or 7 more laps until they start to lose a little bit of pace once those hard tires are going to be able to come into a form of their own. And again, Hobbs Van Nick, remember, he's had these hard tires. Well, I cued that perfectly as we take a look at Diamond Ninja. It looks like he opted for the soft tires. Honestly, not the best choice, especially with high fuel running. I'd understand if it was later in the race. We're talking lap 21 and later. That'd be fine to take the soft tires, but this early on with high fuel load, racing in a pack, it's probably just not on. But I could be wrong. I could be wrong as we take a look. Track penalties have been something of note that have decided races throughout this weekend. Track penalties, absolute nightmares. Cryptic is unable to get away from the absolute wonderful Quebecathan. Is that what we call Quebec natives? I guess he's not actually a Quebec native, but the resident of Quebec, Hobbs Van Nick, able to hang on. Able to kind of threaten Cryptic a little bit there early on, it looked like. But yeah, talking about track penalties, I'm surprised we haven't seen more come in, because this is such a tricky track when it comes to track limits, especially, well, I say that, it's because you're following cars, you're losing that downforce, you're not running in clean air, and you're having to use a little bit more tire than you'd like to, and higher fuel loads and all that kind of stuff. It's just not optimal for I mean, for track limits, you know, you're going to have to run wide, as we see Hobbs Van Eyck with a little bit of luck. I believe that was probably from the front right, as physics would dictate. But we see Issei battling with the sister team, Petmeister there. Issei, we can see the ERS flashing on the back of his car. Those lights flashing on the back of the car, indicating that his battery levels is below 10%, but it looks like he's generated enough energy for the time being for those lights to no longer being deploying, allowing drivers to know that, no, I'm not as slow as I'll be. I got my above 10% battery charge left. So Issei doing a nice job to be able to hang on to the back of these guys. And I guess this is where I guess I have to admit that, man, this track. No, I'm not going to admit it, okay? We'll wait a little bit as we see a yellow flag pop up there in the back. Looks like Henius line there in the Alfa Romeo. Spun around again, and that's such a tricky corner. Not corners, excuse me, set of corners, because you start going uphill and it transitions down to the right, going left, and so it's just easy to get caught up, especially as you're shifting the weight and changing directions. You can catch that rear end out extremely hard. But we cut back on board with Spinwolf, not back on board, but we're going to cut to Spinwolf as he's attempting to overtake the AI of Harsh Masochist in the Aston Martin ahead of him. But I was going to say, this might be where the race just kind of, we just take a breath now, because DRS trains are starting to form, and this has just kind of been something that's a trait of this track. We've seen it time and time again. And oh, who is that? That was that one kid around, possibly, as we cut to Hobbs Van Eyck, as they're going wheel to wheel again. Hobbs Van Eyck and Cryptic F1 is the hard tire runner. Hobbs Van Eyck getting ahead into turn 12 of Cryptic F1, and I imagine, is Cryptic really going to be fighting back there through this final sector? Man, props to him, as he does have the tire advantage. I mean, I gotta give it to him. I like it. I like it from the Haas driver, even though we're on lap 8 out of 28. Not even close to halfway through this race. The man is still sticking and wanting to get a move done on the Alfa Romeo driver. Props to him. But speaking of sticking, retracing our steps, this might be where we just kind of, there's a lull in the race as we wait for strategy to kick in. We got about 3, 4, 5 more laps before these medium tires start to lose pace. I mean, are we starting to see some DRS trains form? I really don't know, as we see Cryptic. You can still see he has that grip advantage, just outbraking Hobbs Van Eyck, almost running into the gearbox of the Alfa Romeo. But spectacular job from that Haas driver. But yeah, this is kind of one of those characteristics of this course where you have so many flowy corners, and it just, you get people, the Constantina effect into turn 1, and then you get these S's where you absolutely need that dire amount of aerodynamic grip through those corners. So you start to see the people spread out a little bit, and then that gap is enough heading into turn 11 so that, yeah, they can stick with it through turn 12 with that arrow, but they got to back off again through final sector 3. So I mean, this is just kind of one of the characteristics of this track, and that's kind of, it plays a role into developing the setup for these cars. And this weekend, it looks like Chuck SRQ is around in the McLaren, but yeah, the setups for the cars are just absolutely crucial at this track, because there's so many different types of corners and straights where you can get an advantage as we cut to these Ferrari drivers who have somehow pulled out an 8-second gap to P3, yet they're still going at it. Man, they might have heard Kim and I stream over in what was it, Spa, I believe, where we saw them. Was it Spa or Spain where we saw LC Fighter? We saw LC Fighter getting that safety car advantage towards the end there. As I'm going to go ahead and take a break here real quick. You guys might be able to tell why. So yes, we'll listen to the sounds of these hybrid powertrains as they go around this track a little bit more. All right, I'm back. Doing doing better, I hope. But right on board with Queasy Pluto, we saw Hobbs Van Nick, I believe, overtake him through that long DRS straight. But yeah, setup just so important here. As you're just trying to manage which, where do you want your car to be faster. As it looks like we see MJ Povey heading into the pits now, as he's looking to possibly go for not necessarily an undercut, but, kind of trigger those behind him to react to him, not be caught out by other people who are attempting to undercut him. And so in this game, too, it's just so, man, the overcut has been slightly weakened due to the new tire blanket temps, as these Ferrari drivers are still going at it. QX Nemesis, maintaining 0.3 of a lap. 0.3 gap to his teammate ahead of LC Fighter, looking to get back up into that spot. He's like, hey, man, I earned this position. I was on pole for the start of this race. What's going on here? And again, MJ Povey wasn't necessarily any kind of threat to them for the time being, as they had pulled out a very healthy gap. But you got to kind of think about double stacking, not ideal for these guys. So Nemesis is going to send it up the inside. Did LC kind of let that one happen? Did LC let him through everything like that? Or was this just something that Nemesis just had more pace on him, and I guess LC is going to let him through and see, hey, if you pull the gap to me, sure, you can have it, position's yours, but if you're not able to pull that gap to me, then it's game on, son. Which I think they might have, as I was mentioning earlier, they might have listened into Cam and I's stream. I'm pretty sure it was Belgium. We see Nemesis now diving into the pits there. Okay, we see Nemesis diving into the pits, but I'm sure that they heard our stream of Belgium where we said that Ferrari were fixing matches now and opting for, excuse me, not opting. No. This is just a joke. It's a conspiracy theory thing that Kim and I came up with on the spot, but of the Ferrari guys fixing matches, Nemesis triggering a perfectly timed safety car. So we see another person round in that background there. It looks like it's Henius Lime again, who, props to him, man. Honestly, with the pace that these guys have, as we see Lima Bean now diving into this, MJ Povey, where is he going to come out with respect to the other drivers around him? It looks like QX Nemesis is going to do a nice job as Henius Lime round again. Of course, the new flash heating that these cars, these tires have, the new compounds, again, I mentioned it, commentators curse even from the grave myself. It's just, yeah, it's something that, oh boy, we see more people spinning around. No, not Pep Meister, my goodness, one of my favorites of this league. What a shame, but again, USA, it may be a race to forget. I don't know, we'll see how it goes. We're almost crossing the halfway point here with 2 laps left until we reach that halfway mark, but going back to my lost train of thought from earlier in the race, the overcut is just not as powerful as it used to be this time around in the game, because the tire blanket temperatures, we see LC Fighter now. Ooh, okay, this might be a perfect example of what I was going to say. So the tire temperatures coming out of the pits so much colder than what they used to be, so it takes a lot longer to be able to fire up the core temperatures of these tires. So will we see LC Fighter potentially get out ahead of Nemesis but lose a position due to the cool tires? Or what's going to happen here? We're just going to take a look, as it looks like LC has got his boots swapped around for the hard tires, as he's going to be able to come out just barely ahead of his teammate. But this is what I was talking about. Is he going to have enough temperature in his tires to be able to battle with that, as we can do such a huge speed difference between Nemesis coming in and LC coming out of the pits, and it's just no contest from LC Fighter, which I cannot blame. I mean, you guys are running net P1 and 2, as Hobbs, Van Nick, and Lawrence and Queasy ahead of him have yet to pit. Hobbs, Queasy running the hard tire compounds. Lawrence still running the mediums, making him last a little bit longer than the drivers around him, potentially going for a overcut. But as I mentioned earlier, it's not as effective. So does Lawrence know that? Maybe he still has so much more pace left in those tires. And to be fair as well, to credit to him, he has clean air, so why not go ahead and stick it out and just feel the tires in clean air? What are they doing? How are they performing in clean air conditions? Do they have pace to be able to match the new people, not the new people, but rather the new tire runners of the hard compounds behind you? I mean, it's a good strategy call from Lawrence. To be fair, he's got the clean air. Why not go for it? So as it looks like people are starting to back up behind him a little bit with Hobbs Van Nick, but we'll just have to pay attention to that gap there between P1 and P2. Does the medium tire have pace even in clean air? I mean, looking at it right now, not really. It looks like Hobbs Van Nick is really gaining on him, but we'll take a look at the tires now. Who's got what, as indeed Lawrence does go ahead and come to the pits. Now, I mentioned that I did know that the mediums were going to last about 12, 13, 14 laps. I don't really know how hard the hards are going to last pace-wise. We do know that they're going to be good for around 21 laps before that there's any kind of threat of them going pop, right? But pace-wise, when are they going to drop off, especially for those who have spent time on their hards from the get-go on high fuel running, as we see Lawrence coming out ahead of Vokey, and Vokey on the older hard tires, as Quimulus now deciding to come in and get off of those medium tires. Yeah, wow. We'll see. I imagine that he'd probably have the hards primed to be able to go onto that car. Is the game playing visual effect tricks on us? Indeed it was. So yes, he does have the hard tires. Going on to that number 13 of the Silver Arrows, we see yet another car. Is that Vokey around or Harsh Mask? Yes, that is Vokey around in the Aston Martin coming around. Is this an indication of the hards maybe dropping pace? Or is it just, again, I know Vokey, absolute incredible hard worker. I mean, the man, his job, props to him for having it. I know I could not run a mile in those boots that he has, so not a good amount of practice time for him, but the dude is running P11 even after that spin, so props to him, the reserve driver in that Aston Martin. Absolutely nothing but respect and love for that guy. He's been around since season 1, since the Squiffs incident, I believe, and so yeah, but we turn our attention back to these Ferrari drivers. We see yet another yellow flag coming out. Yeah, Vokey again. I assume it's just that flash heating from those hard tires can really catch you out. So we'll take a look now at the pit stops briefly before we cut away. So I hope you got a good look at it, because I know I didn't. As Vokey continues to go around, and it looks like he might be opting to head into the pits, or is it his teammate Harsh Mask? Yes, I'm indeed looking at the wrong green dot on the, British green on the lap map, or track map, excuse me. But we look at, I can't make up my mind, apparently, old me, or young me, I guess, rather, as to where we want to go. So Nemesis coming up to the back of Queasy Pluto, who has yet to pit, starting out on the hard tires, that Mercedes driver. And so he has really no reason to pit currently, but is this going to help the Ferrari drivers? Does it look like Queasy Pluto is trying to break the toe of the Ferrari driver, but maybe opting not to, potentially? I really don't know there, as it looks like, oh, this is going to hurt LC Fighter. I could only imagine as Nemesis is able to get around Queasy Pluto before the start of Sector 3, where it's just so tricky to overtake. So even if LC is able to catch up to the back of that Mercedes driver, it's just going to be extremely hard to get a move done and dusted on Queasy Pluto ahead of him. So that's going to allow Nemesis to get even a little bit more breathing room to his teammate behind, as it seems like these guys are just still going at it. Even if they aren't going at it, I gotta say it's a nice job to make it appear as if they are going at it, and maybe that's just me assuming that they're, oh no, QX Nemesis 3-second time penalty. Oh boy, I talked about it earlier, the track limits, something to look out for. We've seen it all throughout the weekend now. Oh, what is this going to mean for the Ferrari driver? How is this going to change his driving style as we go towards the end of this race? I imagine that's his stint, his pit stop strategy done, as he's fitted the hard tires. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Nemesis. Oh, I can only feel for him. He caught out with bad luck in Belgium with some hardware malfunctions. Yeah, and he trooped. I guess I have to make a reference to it since Kim and I were joking about it, but Nemesis came back out of retirement from his retirement in Belgium to be able to race here because of his hardware issues that he had in Belgium. But yeah, that 3-second time penalty, oh man, that's got to be a big blow to him, as we can see him getting around Hobbs Van Nick, and LC Fighter still, well, I was going to say LC Fighter was still stuck behind Queasy Pluto, as we see Nemesis taking a very aggressive line. Hobbs Van Nick running a bit wide there. A little bit wide there, but I think it was just those two drivers being extremely respectful between one another. As I know, Nemesis knows how much that Ferrari seat means to him, as now we see LC Fighter getting through as well. But I was going to say the former Ferrari team principal, Hobbs Van Nick, I assume that he just respects that team so much that, and he knows that this isn't his fight. His fight is with the driver behind of Queasy Pluto, and are we potentially going to see Hobbs Van Nick dive into the pits now? No, he's going to stick out for a little bit longer on those used hard tires that he started on. So props to him as we see the track limit penalties starting to roll in now as Queasy Pluto dropped back a significant amount. He was up to about a 10th to Hobbs Van Nick behind, as we're watching that one kid attempt to overtake that AI of Harsh Masochist ahead of him there in that Aston Martin. As we see some positions being exchanged there at the back between Voki and NFC Vickers. We'll go ahead and ride on board with him, as Voki was able to get that move done before we were able to hop on board with him. So is NFC Vickers going to be able to hang on to the back of that rapid Aston Martin ahead of him, or is Voki going to be able to gap him and potentially even get out of DRS threat? As they just passed the DRS detection zone, so NFC Vickers will be able to have some DRS heading up into turn 1 on this start-finish straight. Now as I look to use this little bit of a lull to take another drinks break, so I will be right back. Alright, I'm back. Did I miss anything yet? Nope. Doesn't look like it. Riding aboard with Issei, the man who got our Lawrence boards back. I gotta say, I guess now that I'm not an admin, I can come out and say, as we finally see Hobbs Van Nick, the hard tire runner, come in, and we'll keep an eye on Queasy Pluto and see how he reacts to that. But Issei was the man behind the curtain when it came to getting Lawrence back. I myself wanted to go ahead and get Lawrence back when the admin team was reviewing previously banned persons and who should come back, who shouldn't. And I was a big advocate for Lawrence. I was a huge fan of him. We all know that race that occurred, Silverstone, it's just a moment to forget, honestly. There have been a lot of dramatic instances in FRS and Formula 1 too, as we know it. But as we see this cryptic right up the back of Hobbs Van Nick, are those medium tires going to be able to fire up even quicker than we've seen those hard tires do in the past? As they go side by side, Hobbs Van Nick just barely keeping his nose ahead, but Cryptic going to be able to get the inside line here as he's just able to stick ahead of Hobbs Van Nick in that Alfa Romeo, the former Ferrari team principal. Whoo-wee. Oh, what was I saying? Oh, yes, Lawrence. Happy you're back, man. So, I'm honestly ecstatic that you're back. Genuinely. I think a lot of us in Xbox were sad to see you go. And, again, it's a huge thanks to you for being able to get him back and just being an extra reason for him to get back as we continue to ride on board with Hobbs Van Nick and Cryptic F1, who continue to go wheel to wheel through this, respectfully so, might I say, as their elbows out. But man, that is some traditional Canadian racing now, isn't it? As it looks like Issei and now coming up to the back, the man that I've been shouting out for bringing back Lawrence. Man, oh man, as they finally settled in just a little bit, it looks like Hobbs Van Nick, his tires are finally fired up, and he is able to try and hopefully gap the Haas behind him. But with 10, less than 10 laps, I assume, yeah, we got 9 laps left to go. As Queasy Pluto is also opting ahead into the pits, and it looks like, yeah, Hobbs Van Nick is going to easily have that done, especially with the medium tires already up and going. As Cryptic also is going to be able to get that move done on that hard tire compound. So, man, oh man, Queasy Pluto, should he have followed Hobbs Van Nick in? I have to say, possibly. Although, with how close it was with Cryptic, I mean, the traffic and all that kind of stuff, this might have been honestly an optimal situation for Queasy Pluto to be in. So, yeah, P7, not too bad with 9 laps left to go, especially when they're controlling the race. And you look at your teammate down there in P14, And knowing that you're P2 in the championship, you know, maybe you want to try and move up a little bit more, but you just don't have, or excuse me, you do have that pace advantage on those medium tires to those cars ahead and to the car behind of Issei, as we see him gaining. And Spin Wolf, welcome, buddy. Welcome to the fight. The man, the myth, the Witherspoon's legend, my guy, joining us in this battle for, what are we looking at, P5 here? Oh, boy. Don't ever write off Austin. Man, this is some spectacular racing as we see. Yeah. Oh, we see. That's a Ferrari. That's a Ferrari. What Ferrari is that? That's QX Nemesis. Okay, we saw. Okay. Nemesis. Was there contact there? Or was it. Okay, I'll admit, we do know now, post-race, that it wasn't contact. Nemesis did indeed have, as we see, Diamond Ninja and Heinous Lime possibly getting into some kind of contact now. But that was no teammate contact between the two Ferrari drivers. That was indeed a wheel failure, again, for the Fanatec CSL DD. So if any Codemasters programmers are here, yeah, that was it's kind of on your end for that reason, for QX Nemesis, but he's continuing to trucking on, so props to him. I mean, we poked fun at him for retiring and stuff, and I understand. I completely understand. I is it sympathize or empathize with him? It's just, yeah, props to him for being able to come back as this battle for P5 continues to go on. As expected, Queasy Pluto getting that move done with that grip difference, having a little bit better grip, and that newly kitted Mercedes with the medium tires there. As we take a look at the tires. Speaking of tires, who doesn't love a little bit of tire talk? Cryptic on 9-lap old hards to Queasy Pluto on 1-lap old mediums there, as we cut to Quimulus, Queasy's teammate there, as the track limit penalties continue to roll in for some of these drivers. How much of a difference is it going to make at the end? I guess I did kind of tip it off. Nemesis currently sitting with 6 seconds worth of time penalties. That would just put him that would just put him into P3 on that final podium step there, to as we see Heinous Lime around again. I imagine that Alfa Romeo, as we look at Hobbs Van Nick, make sure that it's not him, because we're ecstatic about him there. Indeed, it is his teammate, Heinous Lime there. I'm going to take another break here real quick and collect myself. So I'll be right back. Alright, we've regathered ourselves yet again, riding on board with Queasy Pluto, who is, well, that was a very timely manner to rejoin him. May I just point out the fact that we have yet to see any kind of safety car or virtual safety car for the amount of yellow flags that we've had. Oh no, as one of them is QX Nemesis indeed, and the Ferraris. Okay, that's just not, yeah, that's just unacceptable. Codemasters there, as Nemesis picks up, I'm doing physical air quotes here, it picks up 10 seconds worth of time track penalties. Yeah, that's just not on from Codemasters. You can see him picking up 16 seconds worth of time penalties. Yeah, it just really isn't on from Codemasters. Yeah. So we'll get back to the action. here. Cryptic F1 riding on board with him. Alpine behind is of Spinwolf, who again is just quietly sitting there in P7. Granted, with his 3 seconds worth of time penalties, so okay. That would put him possibly into P9 as his teammate. As we're speaking of Spinwolf, his teammate NFC Vickers. Looks like he's struggling a little bit on those hard tires. No idea when NFC came in. As we see, Queasy Pluto spun round. Queasy Pluto spun round in the final sector there, and we see him doing some celebratory donuts. Is he picking up? Not picking up, but is he going to be doing some pre-celebratory donuts, premature celebratory donuts for his Mercedes World Constructors Championship? No idea. Maybe. I mean, I've only seen up to round 3. Queasy Pluto might have seen all the way through round 12. May I announce that? As Xbox is looking to do 12 rounds this season compared to the standard 10 rounds that everybody else has been looking to do. But as kind of alluding to earlier in the stream, QX Nemesis is indeed retiring from this session, and I can't blame him with the amount of troubles that he has and just the competitor that he is. Excuse me, the competitor that he is, I can't blame him for wanting to retire from this session now. So, anyways, excuse me as I try to regather myself. A little bit of stretch here, a little bit of stretch there. No idea. Ooh, as Voki gets a little bit squirrely there coming out of the final S's. Now, but we're looking at Voki, the Aston Martin driver, as he looks like he's up against a back marker behind him, as we see yet some more yellows. And I'd imagine, again, that's probably Helium Slime. I'm not saying that, I'm not trying to, just guess that it isn't Hobbs and Nick, but just, it seems like Helium Slime struggled just a little bit around this track this time out. But I gotta say, Helium Slime, he was a newbie in Season 4, and he was running default setups, and he was still competitive in Division 2, which is just absolutely mad. So if he puts in a little bit more time and stuff practicing and getting grips to this new physics model that everybody has to get grips to, we could see him possibly fighting for points at the end there. Simply Mango picking up yet another 3-second time penalty there. And this will put him at 15 seconds total come the end of this race, as we are finally looking now at 4 seconds. 4 seconds, excuse me. 4 laps left in this race. Or, excuse me, 5 rather. 5 and, no, 4. Excuse me, pardon me. 4.5 left for this race as LC Fighter. Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, at the expense of Nemesis, at least it is an all-berry podium. Lawrence popping up there provisionally right now. We'll see what happens towards the end of this race. But, and again, it never is a dull moment to see LC Fighter on the top step. This will be his 4th win, if he is able to carry this all the way to the end, as Voki is really going at it with that one kid ahead of him. And McLaren, the fellow Canadian, or not my fellow Canadian, but Hobbs and Nick's fellow Canadian, who I adore. Voki looking to get that move done on that one kid, and he is able to get it done. Now, is he going to be able to get that 3-second gap? Because he does carry 3 seconds worth of time penalties currently. Is he going to be able to knock that out by the end of this race? Excuse me. Oh my, how are my commentators cursing people from the grave? Like, we've already seen this, and I don't remember this, but I commentator cursed him as Voki now comes up. Not Voki, excuse me, but Quimbulus comes up to the back of Voki now. Looks like Voki, with those medium tires, able to cool him down a little bit quicker than possibly we would see on the hards or anything like that, and maybe he will have a tire differential, but again, he still carries that 3-second time penalty. It might be worth looking at who he battles in the end of this race, as we see yet another yellow flag. Are we going to see any kind of safety car, virtual safety car? I'm honestly kind of sick of seeing all these yellow flags, but yet not a single gosh darn safety car or virtual safety car. This is just This is annoying at this rate. I gotta say, Xbox, I expect worse of you. What do we got going on here? Man, oh man. As we continue to look at the, let's just take a look at the top 3 here in those intervals that they carry. Hobbs fan Nick currently threatening Lawrence Boris, and that's probably the biggest story towards the end of this race as we're riding on board with him. I mean, a 1 second gap, 3 laps left to go. Hobbs fan Nick, we know he kept it out a lot later as he's, excuse me, I believe passing the back marker of NFC Vickers, possibly, or maybe that was Spin. No, because they, excuse me, they were carrying. As we hear him lock up there, Hobbs fan Nick, but boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, it. Okay, I'll get through this. We're going to get through this. Okay. Hobbs fan Nick, Lawrence Boris, the battle for P3. 2 laps. Excuse me. 3 laps left to go. Oh, boy. It's acting up again. But we're okay. We're okay. Hobbs fan Nick. Excuse me. Okay. Hobbs fan Nick, Lawrence Boris. 3 laps left to go. Hobbs fan Nick with the tire advantage on those medium tires. And looking ahead to attack Lawrence Boris. And again, I wish I had the tire graphic up to be able to see how much, how many laps it's been since Hobbs fan Nick pitted to the. Oh my goodness gracious! Oh no! And who's that going to be spun around? Is that Queasy Pluto? I'm looking at the timing tower. I see it's a Mercedes. Indeed, it is Queasy Pluto. But this is the story that we want to focus on here. Hobbs fan Nick and Lawrence Boris, the battle for the final podium step. Neither of them carrying any track limit penalties right now, and I know Hobbs fan Nick is just absolutely allergic to excuse me, 2 track limit penalties. As Hobbs fan Nick, we're looking. I'm so sorry about this stuff, but Hobbs fan Nick, yeah. Christ almighty. I'm going to take a quick break and regather myself. Hold on a second. I'll be right back. So we're back now. We're riding on board with Hobbs fan Nick. I didn't get the best of sleep last night. That's why we're hearing some of my speech impediments come up. But that's besides the point. Hobbs fan Nick, this is the story that we want to talk about. Hobbs fan Nick, Lawrence Boris going at it. And they've been going at it for the past couple of laps too. And man, Hobbs fan Nick has a tire advantage, but I don't know how much of a lap. Because again, we see those mediums only go about 12 laps or so. Excuse me, on the on high fuel running, granted. So, I mean, the mediums might be able to carry out the pace a little bit longer, but Lawrence, he's just looking too good right now, and he looks like, no offense to Nick, but Lawrence just looks like he wants it just that much more than Nick right now, and I gotta say, it would be a huge comeback for Lawrence to stick this Red Bull on the podium, especially, oh man, I talked about it again and again, Red Bull. Mercedes, I think that's going to be the fight to watch throughout the entirety of the season for the Constructors' Championship in Xbox Division 1. Not saying I haven't paid attention too much, as I should be, for the entirety of the league, but, excuse me, but it's, yeah, boy oh boy, it looks like it'll be a good one here for Xbox between those two teams, as both of them have some very talented drivers in them. Queasy Pluto in Mercedes. Lawrence Boris, or Lawrence Bo as he's now being referred to as, and Pet Meister in the other seat on that Red Bull team. But is Hobbs fan Nick going to be able to get a move done here? Oh, so close as we see yet another yellow flag being triggered without any kind of a virtual safety car being deployed. Is Hobbs fan Nick? Ooh, look at this. Lawrence going defensive. This is the battle we wanted, the last lap battle. Hobbs fan Nick. Is he going to be able to stick it around the outside? Ooh, a little bit twitchy there from the rear of that Alfa Romeo. Lawrence Board just looking so stable through here, especially on those hard tires. Hobbs Van Nick and his medium tires just look like they are not able to hang on through the end of this race. But they were able to, but Lawrence just able to make those hard tires just work a little bit better than those medium tires. And oh my goodness, okay, can I get a break from this? LC Fighter able to win back to back. Are you kidding me? The man who's won now, what would it be? His first win in Imola, then again in Canada, then in Belgium, and now in Austin. Sure, this guy hates on all the different kinds of non-pad tracks, as he likes to put it, but I'm starting to think this guy might be on a wheel, and I guess, dare I say it, this guy, he might be Tracy Ross, because this dude is absolutely Ellis, if you catch my flow. I did indeed have that wrote down on a post-it note, but I managed to deliver it with full strength and all that good jazz, as the rest of the field is coming across the line now. Excuse me again. Not a great night's sleep, but I power through. We power through as Squeezy Pluto opting to head into the pit lane here the very last minute, and is going to cross the line right about now. There we go, after his Austin Powers moment, finishing in 16th. Not a great outing for the Mercedes boys. I know they have a bit more pace in them. We saw Quimbulis getting caught up in an incident earlier on, as the AI of Harsh Match Kiss takes the win. But that's going to be LC Fighter on the top step yet again, and you cannot be upset with this result, even if you were. Who was it? Was it Poe? Yeah, Poe P2. You cannot be upset with LC Fighter on the top step. He's just such a likable driver, such a likable person in FRS, and I absolutely love the guy. And I don't see why anybody else wouldn't, if I'm being quite frank. So, boy, oh boy, thank you guys for tuning in and bearing with me through that different moments that I had. It's all good. LC Fighter's on the top step. Why wouldn't we be happy? Man, I guess I have to do driver of the day. That's the thing, right? Driver of the day. It's a tricky one, but I think I'm gonna pull a PlayStation Division 1 and go ahead and give it to I guess I can go ahead and manage stuff now too as well. Excuse me. But I think I'm going to go ahead and give it to Henia Slime for sticking with it. I mean, honestly. And not knocking on Nemesis, but I mean, we've seen some seasoned guys just retire early from the race for their frustrations. Admittedly, again, not knocking on Nemesis. His frustrations were well justified, as they were hardware issues. Stuff that were out of his control. But Henia Slime spins were a bit more in control than say Nemesis' situation. So and the fact that Henia Slime still stuck with it even with that, I mean, that's just props to him, especially again, as I said, in PlayStation, in such a competitive when the skill spread is so vast and everything like that. Props to Henia Slime for really sticking with it and going to the end of that race. So I just got to give it to the man. Absolutely appreciate it. And thanks to you guys who stuck around. Mako, I hope you went to bed before you started watching this thing, or else I'll be absolutely livid, because we all know that I am the bedtime enforcer around here. But for the time being, I'm AWD Turbo Guy, and I will see you guys next week when we tackle Austria, another AU track, AUST track. next week out. Potentially. I got a little bit of moving going on starting this Friday. So hopefully I have stuff set up by then and have Wi-Fi. But if not, I'll try and cobble something together for us, all right? But until then, what do we say? Chicks dig heals, wounds scar, something like that. Or no, chicks dig scars, wounds heal, and glory lasts forever. Until then, see you next time.